Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. Tough one last night for the Pitt men's basketball team. I'm actually heading to New York City later today to cover a little Penguins-Rangers on Friday night. But the lead topic, we're a couple days out from Steelers-Browns, and I want to get into the future of the Steelers. Not in a big picture context, but more of they're winning a lot this season and what some of that might lead to and some decisions that they have on the horizon. But first, want to remind you this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates. If you're injured in an accident, you're probably wondering what's next. For over 40 years, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped injury victims answer that question. Whether it's gathering evidence, collecting medical records, or dealing with insurance companies, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped over 75,000 people handle what's next. Call 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit edgarsnyder.com for a free consultation. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. So, all right, the Steelers are 9-3, rematch with the Browns. That's a separate discussion. They've had that with Chris Carter on the North Shore Drive and all of that. I personally think it's not going to be very close. But anyway, what I want to get into is the success that has spurred the Steelers 9-3 start, 9-3 record. I guess it's not a start anymore. And what happens with Russell Wilson, Najee Harris, George Pickens, some of the decisions that the Steelers have to make. And this isn't necessarily tied to, what would you do with George Pickens? Although I guess it kind of is. I would keep him around at this point. I think it's worth it. I think, there are obviously headaches, but the performance outweighs those. But I want to start with Russell Wilson. And I want to start with the idea that the Steelers would do anything other than keep him around. I don't understand it. Why wouldn't you keep him? That's why you brought him here. And again, I got into this, I think it was last week on the podcast. I'm not going to belabor this specific topic. I'm just sort of outlining decisions that the Steelers have to make and where I would go. And it starts with the quarterback. We saw post-Ben what negative quarterback play can look like, how much it can hold you back, how much better, Mike Tomlin and the rest of the team looks when you have a veteran quarterback capable of doing all of the things that Russell Wilson is capable of doing. I guess the other question you would answer or ask, is he happy here? Does he enjoy it? I'd say he does. You watched Hard Knocks, right? You see him on the sideline. You see the way he and Mike Tomlin interact. We see it a lot at practice. How's he playing? Does he fit the system? Of course he does. I mean, look at some of these numbers. It's crazy. 271 yards per game for Wilson. That's the best mark of his career. I know it's only 6 starts. I get that. Yards per attempt, 8.7, also the best of his career. Passer rating, 104.3, the 5th best of his career. If you extrapolate his numbers over a full 17-game season, 28 touchdowns, 9 picks. I mean, come on. And let's step back and look at the offense. And, I know there was a little bit of a freak out there, scoring 37 points in 2 games. I think that's more of the exception than the rule with this group. Maybe that's a little bit more of a hunch, but to me, there's really no question here with Russell Wilson. You bring him back. I think he wants to come back. I think you can figure out the financials of something. I'm sorry. I don't want to roll the dice or rule the dice on anything else. I want to see them bring Russell Wilson back. They know what he can do, and it really helps everything else around him. Now, what do you do with Najee Harris? That's a more fascinating discussion to me. I would try to bring him back, and I wrote that in 10 thoughts this week. I don't know what that would look like. I think if you look at, and I did in here, deals for Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, other similar backs, you're looking at $8 million to $12.5 million, something like that, theoretically, 2, 3, 4 years. That's about the pocket that those guys are earning. What does Najee want? That's a question that I don't think anybody can answer, but, I said in there, I'd be willing to go 3 years, 8 to 10 million, something like that. I think it's very interesting, underrated, underappreciated, something like that, how much Najee Harris brings to the Steelers offense, sort of an unsung hero, if you will. But if you look at numbers and what he's producing relative to his peers, it's really not that unsung. It's just we don't talk about that as much. And I think I got into that a couple days ago here, but as a refresher, there are 3 players since Najee made his NFL debut who have 4,000 rushing yards and 1,100 receiving yards. Of course, Najee is one of them. The other 2, Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley. We're talking about some seriously elite company. Adam Bittner cited this stat. I thought it was fascinating. He's one of just 7 backs with 200 attempts this season. Within that group, if you look at his Pro Football Focus grade, he is 4th. That jumped out at me. Derrick Henry's first, Josh Jacobs is second, Saquon Barkley is third. We can have an argument about whether Saquon Barkley should be higher, but whatever. Missed tackles forced, another interesting stat. Shows basically the angry running of Najee Harris that we like to talk about. Kenneth Walker is first with 58. Najee Harris is second with 55. His career high was 58. Essentially, he's having the best year of his career, and he's doing it as a huge part of this offense and somebody that the Steelers absolutely have to keep around. And then what do you do with Pickens? Again, as far as the off-the-field stuff, the discipline, I don't have any problem with the way Mike Tomlin's handling it. I wish he was maybe a little bit more aggressive, but I don't think just because, he decides to instantly handle something that's going to change. Like, I think there are more factors at play. I think there's a human dynamic. I think you're doing about as well as you can. I think anybody who watched Hard Knocks, and if you think Mike Tomlin isn't on top of the discipline or the mentality of his team, you're crazy. And I'm fine with it. And you might have to live with some of the junk. I'd like to think that after, next year when they have to make that decision, that you don't. But I would still, at this point, you try to keep all three of them together if you can. Now, if Pickens wants $30 million, if Najee wants a bunch, you've got a line, but you try. All right, going to take a short break. Going to be back with a couple more topics I want to hit on. Have our usual mid-roll message from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, so I'll shift into my advertiser voice now. No, seriously. You ready for an escape from the everyday? The Bradenton area on Florida's west coast is welcoming visitors. Our world-famous beaches are being restored to their pristine states. Beloved island businesses are bouncing back faster than expected, and our signature Floridian cuisine is just as fresh as ever. Don't wait. Start planning your visit today at BradentonGolfIslands.com. We were actually talking in my house about getting to Anna Maria Island, counting down the weeks to spring training and being able to go there. So, my goodness, what a wonderful place. And thank you guys for your support. All right. So the wide receiver stuff, I wanted to get into that a little bit because it makes me question the validity, how much sense it makes to add a wide receiver at the deadline. And what got me going there was Deontay Johnson and the Ravens. What a disaster, right? He's now suspended for a week, conduct detrimental to the team because he refused to go in a game. Really? That was a bit surprising, and it definitely put to rest the idea the Steelers, the idea or the rumor, or whatever you want to say, going around the Steelers, like, should they give Deontay Johnson a chance? No, unequivocally no. That being said, I think this is a good and interesting week for Mike Williams. 17 snaps last week against the Bengals. Have not understood how little he has played. Calvin Austin in the concussion protocol. Not going to try to pretend to be a doctor and understand what's going on with concussions, but I will pretend to be, a somewhat plugged in observer or something, whatever you want to call it, of the Steelers and what's best for them and what you would need to see down the stretch. One of the reasons I want to see them get Mike Williams involved more is if you need him. Like that should be enough of a scare, an idea. What if they're down a receiver? What for like an extended period of time? You want this guy involved. You want him developing some sort of rapport with Russell Wilson. You want him for not to feel like the moon if he has to go into a game and play. I don't understand why he's played so sparingly, but if there's a week for him to get more involved in the offense, it absolutely has to be this one against the Browns. Good opportunity. It's whatever you have to do to get him downfield and doing something, do it. All right, last topic. Wanted to just shift a little personal note, but congratulations, whatever you want to call it, to Kevin Stevens and Matt Cullen. They're going to be inducted into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. They were honored at a ceremony last night at the William Penn. Just two incredible people. You can't tell the story of the Penguins without those guys. And they represented different things to me at different points in my life. Growing up, in Pittsburgh and loving the Penguins and wanting to, be a professional hockey player, all these things. Like, how do you not love Kevin Stevens in his style and what he represented on those 91 and 92 teams? We'll never forget, watching like One from the Heart, that video that capped the first cup run, and seeing highlights of Stevens and predicting that they're going to win 4 straight in Boston. And not the ego, but the confidence in the way he carried himself. Loved it. And then getting to know Kevin as he went into a scouting role and stuff in his post-playing career. And now all that he does for people with addiction and recovery and all of that. It's just absolutely incredible. Matt Cullen, covering the Penguins 16 and 17 Cup teams. There was the number of better human beings on those groups, very small. Will forever cherish my interactions with Matt Cullen. Was always available, was a great player, was an important player, anchoring that fourth line, penalty kill, doing thankless jobs. But just the longevity got me thinking about a trip I took with Steph Chambers up to Moorhead, Minnesota, where Cullen lives in the offseason, and watching him work out with like kids half his age, and he's skating circles around them. He's setting up drills. He's a coach and a player at the same time. There's some great art in there, watching him work out at this weird, I don't even know what it was, like not a factory, but this, I think I describe it in there. It's almost, I don't want to say a trailer park, but it's just this weird setup, and he's got like all these stem wires attached to him and doing this odd workout. He's just a fascinating dude, and really cherished getting to spend time with both of them. Congratulations for their induction into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. Make sure you like and subscribe, and you get all of these videos and so much more here on First 10. I'll be back tomorrow for the Friday Q&A edition. And thanks so much for watching, everybody.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.